Hello, everybody. This is Big Chonis coming at you live here. Sunday, March 29th, 2020. We are about to embark on a brand new week of Bitcoin price action. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Hit that thumbs up button. Remember to follow me on YouTube. Hit that subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter at Big Chonis. Lots of interesting areas that we were watching through the day here, seeing if 6K was able to hold. It had been a resistance area, being back tested as support. We're basically right on it here. You know, we did have these two upper wicks that basically quantified our top on the monthly scale. We could consider this even as, you know, the back test in next month, April. Maybe we're able to put down another lower wick that gets bought up through the month and closes like that, giving the market more of a reassurance that, you know, the lows overall are in. And of course, we've been very tight in all of our EMA moving averages here. I got a tight, you know, on the 30-minute here, just watching the price action. We did have another fall again through the day, you know, relatively speaking, $100 or so, consolidating once again. Does feel still this kind of bear pennant look to it here. We are riding somewhat of a lower channel here, and if we combine that with these upper areas of resistance, that could basically show us that we're in this, you know, falling wedge pattern that could take us over the next couple days, highs above 6K and as low as, you know, $5,600, $5,700 there. We just closed the weekly candle. Very memorable week in Bitcoin it was. Oh, let me get you guys some better. There we go, so you can actually see it. So this isn't as bearish as it kind of looks. Let's look at the wick here. From our highs of the week, we lost almost $1,000 from where we were at the best of last week. We actually were able to put in, looks like, well, where are we here? What was the high? The high was 6983 and then 6990. Okay, so we were slightly lower by $7, give or take. Clearly a double resistance here. And the fact that we still closed green is kind of irrelevant because we're talking about a separation here of like $60. So it could have just as easily been red and have the same shape and still can kind of have the same meaning here. The second week, or we're starting our new week here, $5,800 now remains kind of a pivot point. It was where we ended the week of March 16th. It was where we basically ended the week of March 23rd once again. but the range of these weeks was, almost $1,000 both weeks on the upside. So this is kind of the new line in the sand here, and for the third week in a row, we are basically closing, opening, and then close, and then opening again. Um, where we've been here now. Can this be? And maybe we should go to I go to the 3-day. Keep it good here. So a couple of things were obviously happening here. We saw our declining volume. We did see our rising wedge type pattern. This basically did come to an apex here and roll over. And when that happens, if we want to quantify this as impulsive, as bullish impulsive, and not just corrective based on what had happened here on this previous breakdown, we can do a fib. And we can kind of see what our expectations are, where we may find support within this area. And we're going to start at our swing low, and we're going to go to our swing high. Now, there's many ways we can approach this, but what we can see is we did initially find to the penny 236 support. That was an area where you hit a resistance, support, resistance, was able to get back over it again, and the fact that we touched it on the initial try and actually held it for 2 of our daily candles before falling through. The 382 then gets put into play. Notice how it coincides with this stop and reverse area that we can see here. Okay, so 5790 can be our next area to retest support, not just from the fib standpoint, but the fact that we have candle history here as resistance. You can see over here, right? A couple wicks above, but still it was resistance. And then you can see here we actually found it as support on the same range here. So wouldn't be surprised to at least be able to test this and hold. And a bounce from there would not be crazy, because then we can almost look at this more of a kind of a parallel forming here, where we are just hitting the lower edge of our parallel, and that we can actually then, if we do find support here, target another top touch, which puts us almost at about $8,000, and literally to the top of our cliff where we had fallen off. So that is a scenario that this channel, give or take, and remember, we've had, I feel comfortable with keeping the line kind of here just because of how many times, and because this was clearly a trap, significantly one here, that I'm fine keeping this as a parallel and using, actually I could probably even come in a little bit here and looking at this as a bear trap as well. And that actually puts us right on the lower edge of our channel here. And so this is clearly a narrative of an ideal area to hold. Otherwise, we would be targeting our 50% all the way down to our golden pocket, which is right at 5K. I mean, right at 5K, $50 on either side. So that's notable. Okay, we're seeing areas of confluence that take us from a Fibonacci standpoint, and also take us from candle price history standpoint, which, as you know, I'm very fond of saying. It feels notable. Oh, look at that. Look at that. 1 second here. Sounds so much better, don't I? Anyways, so yeah, that's what we're looking at here. We have that inflection point as we start the new week. Let's see here. There we go. All right, sorry about that. I guess I didn't have my headphones plugged in, but we're much better now. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I appreciate it. Anyway, so let's go back to the weekly chart. Let's hide what we got here. Oops. So let's do that. There we go. Okay. So our zero line, but we are putting in some kind of interesting wedge here that let's see if we can break out again then. Getting back above our zero line here would actually be very encouraging. It would tell us that we actually have legit money flow re-entering our market. And you see how that break showed us how much we can go higher. Another example of it here. And of course, our big daddy right here. So any sustainable bull market, you need your chalk and money flow above our zero line on the weekly, and we're not there yet. We got a race to go. I'm still very encouraged with the OBV profile. It's a great V here. We can almost use this top here as an example. Could be of the inverse of what just happened here. We have other examples, of when these V's, especially the dimension of this was huge. Decent amount of Bitcoin was purchased. Let's just call it below 5,000, I reckon. Let's look at a couple others here. RSI, it's still pretty weak. We are holding our higher low from our 3,200 area, as would expect, because we're holding a higher high as well. A higher low on the price as well. I'm on. Let's go back. Let's go back in time, people. Okay, let's go back in time. Okay, now the RSI on the weekly has had two circumstances. Right here. Okay, in pretty much the notable history of Bitcoin on the weekly. Okay, where there's a couple occurrences happen here. We have a divergence set up there, and we had a divergence set up here. This isn't enough of a separation yet to create either of these two divergences here. This took almost a month, and this took almost 3.5 months. So any kind of bottoming, I suspect, in the RSI over the coming weeks of Bitcoin will need to show some sort of a divergence. And what we're hopefully looking to see is some sort of a potentially we test the lows, but our RSI stays stronger. It can note more strength than we're currently seeing. This is notable. We did cross the stochastic, or at least we're starting our week with the open stochastic on the weekly. We still didn't bottom like we did last time. I did like this double tap here. I mean, just a beautiful signal. Boom, boom. As well as just the dead stick, I suspect we're going to need to do something like this at some point. The bullishness of Bitcoin during this range was incredible. This was basically Bitcoin 6K to 14K. This was the top here, right? And actually, it was like right here in June. But an extended way above bullish to an extended way below bearish. I still feel it needs to, doesn't need to, but we tend to find better bottoms in these correlated areas with a better setup for a longer, more sustained run. Now, we could be finding it here, okay, but I would like to see over the coming weeks maybe one more rollover, and on the second one, I'd have more confidence of that closing bottom area here. Otherwise, we can basically target any kind of notable resistance, basically setting up on this shoulder here. So something like this before the final rollover would be ideal for me in terms of, okay, we did the dip, we did the double dip, long, double dip, and the move continued. And then this here was our epic bull run that the pattern was just, it held the higher low, pretty much consistently there. Great channel, especially when we came back here, we held the higher low. So that would be us doing that. And then actually I could almost move this here where we don't get as low, but we actually skim the bottom once again. And that could be something we could look for as well. So note the higher low, but still a long way to go there. Our squeeze Momo, this gives us kind of a visual of our mountains and valleys. And the thing I like is, well, for starters, just note here, our move from 64 to 10.5, it just almost like a little hill there. There really wasn't much behind this, even though the price action was able to crawl up there to that point. We've now put in a flip here in our histogram. Are we starting another red mountain here? I don't know. I actually would think we might be able to. Kind of hang around this area here. We have running room, obviously, to potentially match the last one here. But similar to this, where we went down low, we came back, we tried to get above, we just couldn't. Maybe we did a little better here. And then we came back and put in a higher low on the histogram. And that actually was a better setup for the mountain we eventually built there. It should be noted as well that we are putting in overall lower mountains. I wouldn't really see this. Well, I would see this as a sense that we could still get back up here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. We could still get back up here and put in that lower high touch of this line. But for now, this doesn't really give me the confidence that we are going to do that anytime soon. A price slip on the green, though, would be notable as well. That's why I think I wouldn't be surprised if we do hang around our zero line for the time being. This is the weekly MACD. Now, what I like to look for in this is two things. Obviously, the extent of histogram. Our histogram, it really doesn't look very good, but as you can see, our decline has slowed somewhat in the last week. Our separation between bars, this was very volatile here, okay? This was very volatile here, and maybe we are slowing a bit on that decline. Also note how far below our indicators are. Our red one is right here. You can't see it, but it's right here. And there's our blue. We tend to get no farther apart. Doesn't mean we can't stay apart for lengthwise here, but that spread needs to kind of normally remains relatively consistent. So our spread is basically at the extremes we normally see, but that doesn't necessarily mean these just can't keep coming down more or less like this. Any kind of a first upturn here would be notable because we can be due for something on this turnaround here. I just don't think we're gonna get this low again, because then we'd be at prices like another 50%. I mean, yeah, if we got down here, we talking about Bitcoin like $2,500. So we just don't know what kind of bottoming we're gonna see, and we're still waiting to see how that plays out. So let's go to just kind of the most recent area here of price action. The ascending triangle theory, it can definitely still be playing out. We are putting in these higher lows here. We are still having a consistent top. We are still, as I said earlier, from a fib standpoint and whatever, ranging higher. Um, the um, But the ultimate area said our next stop really needs to be a break and close above $8,000. The problem is the market is wounded, the bull is wounded, and the S&P 500, which opens tomorrow, and the Dow and the overall equity markets, definitely can still put a bearish impact on Bitcoin. I think from Bitcoin to gold to equities, we've had that first bounce. We've had that first oversold bounce. The question is, how sustainable is that? Most of the time, the first bounce is, um, not the low, or at least the chance for that area to get retested again to confirm it. And if Bitcoin was able to do that and get down here to like the mid 4Ks of such, finding that support and a good bounce from that would actually be a very nice sign. Seeing the RSI, holding with the higher high, um, and seeing the volume spike come in as well. Remember, every Bitcoin sold on the spot markets is a Bitcoin bought and a new holder at a different price. So we have to keep that in mind, that the distribution while holding higher prices is what you want to be able to achieve. And for now, our stop and reverse area is, it's about $5,700 here, 56, yeah, $5,700, because we've had two tests on it. This wick here, when I'm on the 6 hour, okay, that bounced nice. We did hold the higher low just barely, had even a better bounce off of that. And so there's buyers here. There's people willing to come into Bitcoin on this break here. Being able to, where we are now, maintain that higher low of support will be the first area that we'd like to see happen. But remember, this can break uh, and get to really in this range here. If we start putting in closes and candles below here, okay, then we're probably going to have to back test it, and it'll probably act as that kind of resistance. And that's why this area now becomes so much more important, because after the bounce, we had the resistance from basically 6K to $5,600 here. So this $400-ish window can really be squeezed down to almost $200 of give in terms of where Bitcoin ideally would want to find buyers. The higher low, the liquidity pool here, and onward we can go. And we want to see that bullish divergence begin to play out next week when the stock markets, can we have a bearish day in U.S. equities and a bullish day in Bitcoin? Can we have, or the inverse of that, where it could actually ride the coattails, if you will? So that's kind of what we're hoping for as the new day begins, the new week begins. Just a couple more indicators we can blow through here. Let's go back to our weekly chart. Still so wide here. So we're still so wide on the Bollingers. This is just crazy wide here. So we have lots of running room to come closer, to tighten these up. Middle Bollinger is still, $7,700 and falling. This candle, this upper one here over the coming weeks will really start to come down quickly. It's just, we got so much time here. That's why we could range out big time from 5K to 8K over the next, month or so, and still be in the range until we can tighten these guys up here. My EMA 1226 gives me a broader sense where we are here. The bear cross still holds, obviously. $7,200. I think it could be definitely touched on the weekly, up to 78. Here's our zone. Will take several weeks for this thing to have any chance of recrossing to a bull market. Remember, the spacing of this is what we like to look at. The longer the spread after continued resistance, okay, the better chance of the reversal comes into play. And on a higher time frame, when you get the kind of a split there, once the bull cross is confirmed, you can ride this support all the way up. So we're still in the very early stages of this bear cross, but because we've already done this kind of fake out, and now we're back to this, still showing this will be the bear cross for the foreseeable future. Thunder. Start of the week on a red 6. Again, as Tone would say, finishing this up with a 9 would be great. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we're kind of definitely with closes below 78. This will definitely remain a red 6, and then after that, we could definitely be doing a price slip with price action above a $5,800, which is not as hard as it used to be. And just the MAs real quick here. Rocking a hard place. MA 200 holds support. MA 100 is resistance. The 50 is still way up here. Hasn't even come down yet. It's still angled higher. This shows us how long we have until any kind of a meaningful spread would be meaningful. Whoa, did you hear that thunder? So MA 200, 55.90. Now, we all remember back here, it was the support we needed, okay, that to bring Bitcoin into a wonderful bullish trend. But we're hitting it again, right? Yeah, it's good. We found that support again. But, I mean, we're at a higher price. It was at 3K here. Now it's above 5K. But it doesn't give me the confidence that we will always continue to find it as support. I take you back to Bitstamp here. And, oh, actually, you know what? Oh, what the heck? Did I just freeze? There we go. I probably need BLX. Oh, no. Whoa. So, yeah, I should BLX. We've been below. We've been below. Or at least we've ridden the MA 200 on many wicks here, similar to here. Bounced around it. We did actually close below it here just barely, and then we closed below it here and here just barely. So there's history here and there's consolidation here, and we basically shown that when we can do that a couple times, we can use that as that springboard. So we could just look at this from a wider perspective and say, okay, we're just doing the same thing, just at a much greater scale, obviously. So this is the first touch and this is the second touch. So maintaining that MA 200 is a great narrative for the bottom being in, for sure. But I just don't believe that it's gonna keep it going this time. And the way that the MA 100 acted as so much support, closing above 7K in this world we're in now, in this scenario, would be a great endeavor. But the fact that we're so split up here, I just think eventually we're going to lose the MA 200 support on consecutive candles, consecutive weekly candles. We really didn't do it here at all. And here we did it just one, and there was the reaction to it. Whenever you do something for the first time, it's very meaningful. You tend to get a counter effect until it eventually reverts to the mean, which would be down. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight on Sunday. 52 of my closest friends watching. Hit that thumbs up button. Please hit that subscribe button. Hope you guys are safe, washing your hands. This is the interesting times we live in. Man, the uncertainty of it all really puts volatility back basically in all the markets. People are trying to find that bottom, find the entry, and but there's fear out there. There's a lot of fear, and until that is able to wane, uncertainty will persist in the markets. The markets do not like uncertainty. So I think we're still in for a very long and bumpy ride. But in that, there is always opportunity. So until next time, this is Big Chonis here. Stay safe, Stay inside. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.